Good evening, everyone, and welcome to day 16 of our Salesforce Platform Developer. Tonight, we're going to continue with Introduction to LWC and SFDS Part 2. So last week, we learned about Lightning Web Component, and we learned how to use the SFDS command to get started with Salesforce development. Okay, I've opened up my Visual Studio Code, and this is where the whole thing starts. First of all, remember, I asked you to install the Salesforce CLI. Before you can do anything, you need to install the Salesforce CLI. The Salesforce CLI enables you to carry out some of the transactions, some of the things that we are doing. Okay, so if you don't have this Salesforce CLI installed, you will not be able to do the things I'm doing. Okay, now the second thing is obviously you need to connect. You need to connect your Salesforce org with your local workspace. How do you connect your Salesforce org with your local workspace? First of all, you create a new window, which we currently have. Then maybe you can connect, okay? To connect, you first of all need to create a project with Manifest, okay? Creating a project with Manifest is like creating a structure, okay? You're creating a structure that has all the things you need to do or all the files you have in your hub. Does not necessarily you have those files. Does not necessarily mean you have those files. However, it means that you can retrieve those files locally. Okay. So you click on Create Project with Manifest. Okay. And once you click on Create Project with Manifest, you will click on Standard. And you'll be able to enter the name of whatever you want to give your local workspace. To get into that window, what we needed to do was to, number one, you need to press Control. Okay, you need to press Control-Shift-P or Command-Shift-P, okay? You need to press Control-Shift-P on your computer or Command-Shift-P on your computer if you're using Windows. Okay, so now you have to create a new folder. Normally, it just gives you your previously created folder or something like that, but you can create a new folder and make sure you know where the folder is on your desktop. Okay, you create a project with Manifest. This is what it means to create a project with Manifest. You have what I call the default Salesforce structure. Okay, what is the default Salesforce structure? It gives you the application folder, the Aura folder, classes folder, Lwc pages, layout. What are applications? Applications are the applications you built in your Lightning Web Component. Okay, what are Aura components? Aura components are previously called the Lightning components. Okay. However, what we're learning today is a Lightning Web Component. It's different from the Aura components. Okay. Classes. Classes are just your Apex classes. Okay. So if you have classes in the system, you can retrieve them, but make sure that it is on the classes folder. Okay. Lwc pages, layouts are just what we have in the Salesforce org, and you are retrieving them. Okay. So the first thing first is to create a project with Manifest. The other thing is to go into the Manifest folder, go to your package.xml and retrieve. Okay. You want to retrieve all the things which you have in your hub. Okay. So now, if you want to get a comprehensive files of what you have in your hub, this is not sufficient, right? Last week, I told you about a website you can easily go to, or not just a website, you can just Google it, okay? Just say package.xml Salesforce. And it's going to give you a comprehensive package.xml Salesforce you can retrieve. Remember the last time? This was what we used, right? We copy the entire thing here and we retrieve all the things in this place, okay? This is obviously a blog, but there's also the Salesforce version, but Salesforce version is very streamlined to what you're looking for. If you're looking for standard object, it shows you how to retrieve the standard object. If you're looking for custom object, it shows you how to retrieve the custom object, okay? So if you are very patient, you want to retrieve things one at a time, you want to retrieve things, according to how you are interested in those things, then maybe you can go to Salesforce documentation and start looking for how to retrieve a custom field, how to retrieve a custom object, how to retrieve permission sets, okay? So we can do it this way. That would be a more streamlined, structured approach. However, if you want to retrieve everything, like I said, just go to that blog. Alternatively, you can save that blog. You can save this package of XML in case you need it in future. Okay, you can save it and you use it. That's the way I work. I don't look for this blog all the time. I'm just showing you how I got it, but I don't look for it all the time. I literally just save them in my previous project, and whenever I'm interested, I just bring it back. I just use it. Okay, so now let's replace whatever we copied into our package.xml. Okay, we save. And the third thing, or maybe the fourth thing you need to do is to connect, authorize your org. How do you authorize your org? Control-Shift-P, and you select authorize an org. Authorizing an org means that I want to connect my local workspace with my Salesforce Sandbox org. Okay, this is very important. Control-Shift-P, and you select authorize an org. When you select authorize an org, you select Sandbox. Then you give it a name, an alias, so you can understand where or how to use this in future. Okay, I will show you how it appears when you authorize the org. So right now, I want to connect to my org. Once you authorize the org, if you go back to your Visual Studio Code, you will see it says authorize an org successfully ran, and you realize that everything is good. You can also open the terminal, okay, to see the code or to see issues, to see feedback from all the command line transaction you're making, okay? So now you will see that you have authorized this org. It's now Black Force Training. Previously, it was something else. But you can also see all other orgs you've authorized in previous times, okay? But we will not go into other orgs you've authorized. Let's focus on the org we have just authorized, okay? So now, what does this mean? It means that I can now retrieve everything in the training org, okay? I can retrieve everything in the training org. I right-click, and I click on Retrieve Source in Manifest from org. If you click on Retrieve Source in Manifest from org, it's going to retrieve all the files you have in your org. If you click on Deploy Source in Manifest to org, it's going to deploy all the changes you've made in your local workspace into your org. So for those that are working with doing the work experience right now, this is an alternative way to create your change set. But obviously, I recommended you use change set for your learning purpose. But for the developers, this is another way to see how to collaborate. Okay? So try as much as possible to practice with this. But eventually, for your production, we're going to be using the Visual Studio Code. Okay? So remember that. Again, retrieve source in the manifest will retrieve all the changes you have made in your org, even if it was someone else that made those changes. Deploy will deploy all the changes you've made in your workspace into your org, okay? So be very careful when you click on deploy. If you click on deploy, it means that whatever changes you've made will be overridden. So if someone is working on the same file as you, the normal thing for you to do is to create a Git branch. Work on that Git branch, review with your colleague before you push that Git to master. Okay, you should be working with branches and the likes. So I'll click on retrieve, but remember, you can also go to your package.xml here and click on retrieve. Okay, it doesn't matter, whatever. If you click on retrieve here, or if you click on retrieve here, it's the same thing. Okay. Make sure that you have your Salesforce CLI before you can do all this, because without the CLI, you cannot do all this stuff. Okay, we've done all this last week. However, I just wanted to give you a reminder or a refresher of what we've achieved last week. In addition to that, we have a few items we've created in the last time, right? We've created a simple get contact LWC. Where is it? Get contact LWC. Yeah, get all contacts. Okay. And what did we achieve with get all contact? The first thing is we created a JavaScript that would call or give us an Apex to retrieve all contacts in the system. Okay. So for you to achieve that, you need to create what I call a controller. Remember, a controller is the brain of the operation you're carrying out. When it comes to LWC, there are two types of controller. Okay, the front-end controller, which is the JavaScript side controller, and the back-end controller, which is the Apex side controller. Okay, remember, we have two types of controller when it comes to LWC. The first one is the JavaScript controller, whereby you do your JavaScript operations, and you also have the controller, the Apex side controller, whereby you retrieve or you communicate with the database. For our Apex controller, I'm just going to open it, contact controller, and it's just the basic Apex you know. What is it doing? It is retrieving contacts from the system. The Apex controller is retrieving the contact from the system. It's just a select query, and it returns the query. Remember, I told you you could just create a variable called contact and run a select and store that contact into that variable, then return that variable. Okay, but this is just you minimizing code. You just use one line instead of having to write multiple codes. Okay, again, you can have other methods in the controller. It doesn't have to be just one method. You can have as many methods as possible, but try to group methods together. Don't find all accounts in contact controller. Obviously, you should put it in the account controller. So if you look at this code, what is this code doing? This code is expecting an input called search key. And search key is what the user will send into the controller. When the controller gets search key, it strips it off such that it ensures that this is not contaminated. By contaminated, I mean it is not an injection. It is not like SQL injection. Okay. After that, then it puts it into the query to find out what this search key is looking for. Okay. So you've seen how you can use an input in your method, and you've seen how you can get all records without any inputs. Okay. One thing I also said was that you need to use Aura enabled. Aura enabled ensure that the Lightning Web Component can see your method. If this is not decorated with Aura enabled, the Lightning JavaScript will not be able to see your Apex controller, because Aura enabled exposes this for the Lightning Web Component to see. Okay, so now that we have this basic stuff, let's go into, I wouldn't say something more interesting, but some important concepts, some extra learning from where we stopped last week. Last week, we learned about this, okay? For you to have this, you get contact list, and it returns a promise, which is a result, and you store the results in contacts, okay? And you go to the front end, you display the contacts ID and name if it's true, if the contact exists. If it's an error, You display undefined for contact and you display the error. Okay? So you display error here if it's an error. Okay? So now this is the front end. This is what people see. How do you get started with the front end? There's what they call the Lightning design style. So what is the Lightning design style? Everything you see in your Lightning web components follows a design principle. And it helps you to style, it helps you to design a very good Lightning web components. For instance, if you want to align, you have some sample code that will help you to show how to align center. If you want to create a grid, you have some sample code that will show you how to create a grid. So if I want to create a grid of 3 columns, all I just need to do is copy this and change 1, 2, 3 to the things I want to show out. If I want to get 4 columns, 12 columns, it's just like Bootstrap, okay? Lightning design system is like Bootstrap. It shows you how you can arrange stuff. If you want horizontal lists, it shows you how you can get horizontal lists. Okay, can you see? If you want layouts, it shows you how you can create layouts. Okay, so if you are looking for something that would represent or illustrate or visualize whatever code you're writing, the Lightning design style is where to come. There's so many things you can do with the Lightning design style. For instance, if you want to use any icon, this is the name of the icon. If you look at your code, let's go back to the code, you will see some Lightning card, get all contact, icon name, custom 63. Okay? If you go back to this and you look for what custom 63 is, this is custom 63. Can you see everything is from the Lightning design style? You just need to know how to find what you are looking for, okay? Also remember the style sheets. The style sheets and all those buttons, you can use them using, let's see if there's a button here. Let's look, chat, this is chat. If you want to create chats, displaying data, this is how to display data, okay? If you want to display data, it's going to show you how. I want to see, there's some things I like. Just give me 1 minute. I'm looking for. There's no button there. Let me see. So these are buttons, right? Just Google, search whatever you want. You will see there. So how to create a button that looks nice and whatever you want is here, to be honest. How to create accordion is there, okay? All you just need to do is copy the code, okay? And replace those code with your programs. How to create activity timeline. Everything you've seen in Salesforce, you can create them using the Lightning design. There's so many things you can do. Cards, how to do cards, how to do the new account button. So everything you see in the front end of your this thing, of your application, everything you see here like this, you can create it using the Lightning design, okay? So please, when you're working on anything, your projects, try to see if you can copy the Lightning design style, okay? It's everything. You don't need to code. You just need to copy the code and replace it with your own code, like add product now, or you just need to replace it with add product, okay? So now that we know how things are coming in terms of the templates, let's see what we have for today. In Lightning Web Components, you have two types of calls. By calls, I mean two ways of getting data from the backend. The first way is what they call the imperative. What is imperative? Or what is Apex imperative? The Apex imperative way of getting data is, okay, I want to get contacts from the system. How do I get contact from the system? You have two ways. The imperative way is, I want an action to trigger how to get contact from the system. I want an action. I want that data to be retrieved after I pressed the load contact, like what we did the last time. After I pressed the load contact is when I want the contact to be loaded. Can you see? I had to press. Let me refresh this. By default, it is not calling the get all contacts. But when I click on load contact, it gives me all the contacts in the system. This is what they call Apex imperative method. Imperative method is waiting for an action before it is executed. Get all contacts, okay, is being called after undo load is being clicked. On click, undo load is click, and it gives you get all contact. This is Apex imperative. Okay, there's also what they call Apex wire. What is Apex wire? Apex wire is another way of getting records. However, for Apex wire, whenever the page loads, the controller is called immediately. Whenever this page loads, the controller is called immediately. Alternatively, maybe you're searching something in the search box. The controller is called immediately whenever you're searching stuff like this, like Google. You know, like Google wants to type something, you start getting suggestion. That means it's going to the back end to retrieve information and is presenting those information to you guys in the front end. Okay, that's Apex wire. So let's see the difference between Apex wire and Apex imperative. First of all, let me go back to imperative and just show you the get contact list. So what is imperative? Imperative is saying, go to the controller, get the method called get contact list. And this is the method called get contact list, okay? It's a query that returns the get contacts. And in your JavaScript, you have what they call the get contacts, which is being called after the undo load is being triggered. It gives you a contact, a result which you store inside the contacts because you already declared the contacts. And it gives you error if this contact does not come out or does not exist, okay? So now this is a simple imperative. And if you look at the code in the Visual Studio Code, we add this the last time, get all contacts, gives you that. And if you look at get all contacts, it's going to display the contact, but it cannot display the contact until you load, okay? The wire method is the same thing, but let's see. The wire method is very simple. Let me give you a very simple example of wire method. This one, it requires search key. Let's go to the wire method that requires no search key. Wire method, Apex. Okay, so Apex wire method. Let's copy this. Actually, I don't need to copy it because it's the same thing. Okay, get contact is the same thing. I just need to copy the JavaScript. So I'll come here. Okay, go to, let me create a new one so you can see clearly. Apex wire method. Okay, so this is the JavaScript, okay? So what is the wire method doing? Calling the same get contacts, but we're not doing much. Let me open the imperative so you can compare. Look at what we're doing for imperative. We have to trigger the find contacts. In the wire method, we are not doing much. We're just loading the JavaScript, but on load, the contact will be called immediately and it will be loaded in the front end. Okay, so what is the HTML for Apex wire method? Let's just copy it. This is the HTML for Apex wire method. I'm just going to copy it and I'm going to put it here. Apex wire method. I mean, okay, this is not giving me the old structure of LWC. What is the old structure of LWC? The old structure of LWC is HTML, JavaScript, and XML. So whenever you're creating LWC, you need to have at least 3 files, the HTML, JavaScript, and XML. But for this, as you can see, it's not giving me the LWC, so I'll just create Lightning Web Components, Apex, wire, method, 2. Okay, so maybe the last time we did not create it properly. Now we're having the 3 LWC components, okay? So let's just copy this and just put it there. Apex wire method 2. Okay, so now we have this, right? Again, remember, you import Lightning element from LWC, just like your JavaScript modules. You import because you want to use the Lightning element. Wire. Wire is a module in the Lightning Web Component. You import it because you want to use it. If you don't import it here, you cannot use it here. Okay? So now that we have those 2 imports and we're using it, let's grab the HTML to display what we've just done. This is the HTML. Okay, copy. And we place the HTML here. So again, what is the HTML doing? The HTML is just finding out if contact.data. Okay? This is contact, the results of your wire method, the result, the outcome of calling the get contact list. Okay? You store it at contacts. When you store it at contacts, you will have what they call data, contact.data, okay? Or contacts.error. So it gives you data or error. Alternatively, you can do this. You can do this. I want to show you the previous one we had. You know, when we have the results, right? With wire, you have data and error. With this, you have results, right? With wire, you have data and error. So you can decide to get what you have in the data. You can decide to say, maybe if you want to say, if contact true, okay? If contact true, then you want to now say data contacts equals contact.data, but you don't want to kind of like, you can do it, you can decouple it from here, or you can just take it to the front end, okay? You can take it to the front end and decouple from the front end, just like contacts.data. and contact.error. So you can do it this way, or you can do it the other way. So now that we have this, let's deploy this to our org. You right click and you click on deploy. But before you do that, you are importing what they call a child component. How do you know a child component? A child component would start with a C, meaning that this template is requesting for error panel component, but this error panel component does not exist in our workspace. So for you to use this component, you need to have it in your workspace, okay? But let me show you that error so you can learn from it. It says deploy source fail. And if you look at it, you probably wouldn't get much details because you are not using trace. So I'm copying this. I go to the terminal, paste, and I'm going to use trace, okay? I don't want to use Fatal. I want to use trace. Trace would let me see details of that error or the transaction that just took place. Okay, so if you look at this, this is everything that happened, but scroll down to the end of this. You will see it says, no module named markup C error panel, meaning that you are trying to deploy the template and you're referencing error panel, but we don't have it in our templates, okay? So I just made it, commented it out, save, and I try again, okay? I go to my terminal. Again, whatever I'm doing, I could just right-click and deploy. Okay, so don't use terminal if you don't want to use terminal. Just right-click and deploy, and the same thing will still work, okay? Now it's deployed successfully. The next thing we need to do is go to our Salesforce and put it on our Salesforce org, okay? Edit, page. And you should be able to see it. What is it called? Apex Wire 2 is not there. How do you bring it to your record page? Remember, I told you in Apex LWC, you have 3 files, HTML, JavaScript, and XML. The XML is where you specify where you can use the LWC. The XML is where you can specify where you can use LWC. The last time, what's our XML structure? It has app page, record page, and home page, meaning that I would like to use my LWC components in app page, record page, and home page, okay? So let's copy this, and we put it in our XML, okay? Then we deploy again. Okay, so now that we deploy, I will go back to my hub. I'll refresh this. And I can see Apex Wire method 2, okay? I drag it here. And as you can see, it just displays all the contacts immediately without us clicking any button, okay? If I go to my contacts and I create a new contact, and I go back to my account, record details page, refresh. Okay, go back to the contacts. Let me see the query for our contacts. Let me see the query for our contacts, okay? Okay, it's saying where picture is not null. That means picture needs to be present, okay? Let's go to picture and just put something there. Okay, So the query is getting all contacts in the system where picture is not null. So for us to be able to see that contact we created, we need to have picture present, okay? Like a URL or something like that. Okay, refresh. The contacts that we created is not coming. As you can see, it gives you the data that is in your system immediately. Unlike imperative, you have to click before you get the data. That's the difference between imperative and wire. Let's see another use case of wire, okay? Another use case of wire is this. Can you see? You're typing in something and it's giving you what you have in the system. Okay, let's copy the code and let's use it. I'll copy this. Go to Apex Wire 2. Remember, everything we're doing is on the Salesforce website. Okay? Lightning Web Components is about the way you can think and use the things Salesforce has given to you. So instead of okay, so now I'm going to deploy this. Okay, let me go back and copy the HTML. Remember, you cannot put two templates in the HTML. You have to only use one. Okay, so if you already have a template in the system at the starting point, just take off this template. Okay, so you only have one template. There can only be one template for the Lightning LWC. Again, the same approach. The only difference is make sure you take off this error panel because we don't have that component. And in addition to that, you will see something different. What do we have before? We have just displaying of records, okay? For each contact's data, display the contact's name, which is what we did. But now, for each contact data, display the contact name, which is what we have. But we also have what they call the Lightning inputs. What is the Lightning inputs? The Lightning inputs is just like a normal HTML form inputs, whereby you are expecting a search key. Okay? A search key is the value you are putting into the inputs. And the JavaScript that is being called is undo key change. Undo key change is the value that is the JavaScript that is being called when there is a value in the Lightning input. So let's look at the JavaScript. Undo key change is the JavaScript. And the JavaScript is just telling us that, okay, I want to delay the entry to the input such that so that it doesn't call the database all the time. It calls it after a delay. What is the delay? The delay is 300, meaning maybe like 3 milliseconds or something like that, okay? But remember, the search key, how do you get the value of the search key? Events.target.value, the same JavaScript DOM elements you know. Events.target.value will get you the value of what the user is typing. And you send that value into your wire. Can you see the difference between this wire and the wire we had before? The wire we had before did not even wait. It just find contact and display contacts. But this one is passing in variable into that wire. By passing in this variable, you can go to your controller and call the method for find contact. What is the method for find contact? The search key. it is passing the search key into find contacts, and it's retrieving the query based on the search key. Can you see the key? Okay, so it's looking for where the name matches what we have in the search key. And it stores it in the contacts. Unlike before, what do we have before? Before, what we had was we did not do any search key. We just wire and get contacts immediately. That was what we had before. But now, what do we have? We pass in an input and we store that input in contact. It's still the same approach. The only difference is one is passing in variable, the other is passing in input, and two is not passing in input. Okay? So now that we have that, I can deploy this, which I believe I've already deployed. You don't have to deploy it one by one. You can just go to the top of the folder and deploy it as well, okay? By deploying, I right-click on my mouse and I deploy it. The only reason why I can do that is because I have the Salesforce CLI installed on my system, because everything is literally a command line. But instead of you typing your command line, Salesforce gives you an easier way to deploy without typing in your command line, okay? So now that you have that, okay, we want to see it in our org. I go to refresh. Okay, edit page. Did we name it something else? Okay, we did not name it something else. It's here now, okay? It's Apex Wire 2. Now, what do you expect from Apex Wire 2? What do you expect? Why is it not showing my this thing? Let's go to contacts. Let's put it in contact. It's meant to show my this thing, my form, Apex Wire 2. Okay, this is the form we're expecting. Save, activate. Okay, so we have the form. Now, the expectation is this. As we are typing, it should give you only the thing that it's related to the things you're typing. Can you see? It is only giving you the things that are related to the search key you're putting in here. If nothing matches, it wouldn't give you any results. If it matches what you have, it will give you the results, okay? How did we achieve that? We achieved that by using Lightning inputs, which is a form input element. This form input elements. Then on change, which is just a JavaScript that monitors whenever data enters that form inputs. Undo key change. What is undo key change doing? It is getting the value of what we are typing. It is getting it. And what happens when it gets it? It just delays it a little bit so that it doesn't call the DB all the time. You know, if you don't delay it, anytime you type A, it will go to the DB and call A. Anytime you type AB, to go to the DB and call AB. But now it is just calling it after 300 milliseconds or something like that. Okay? After that, it goes to your find contact. What is your find contact? Your find contact is just a controller, Apex controller. The Apex controller passes in the search key. The search key is what you type. And the search key is just a query from the contacts where the name matches the search key you passed in. That's the whole process. It looks interesting, This is what, I wouldn't say this is what Google is using, but it's similar to what Google is using. When you type stuff, yeah, it gives you, Google is just too fast, right? Google is just too fast, but this is what Google is using. So remember, this is a wire method with a delay. So if I ask you to create a simple search engine, you should be able to create a simple search engine for an e-commerce. Just look up the product and display the product. What else do you need? Product name, product price, product category, and you can get all those stuff from the Salesforce backend. This is how to build a simple e-commerce website in Salesforce using Lightning Web Components. You just have the object, products. You get all those details. Right now, we're getting name, but you can get as many information that is present in the contacts. And you display them in a very nice grid. That's how to build a simple list page in Salesforce using Lightning Web Components. Now we spent a bit of time on that. Lightning Web Component is mostly used in the community website. It's not really used, obviously it is used there as well, but it's mostly predominantly used outside, not inside. Inside, you probably use Visual Studio, first page, you use buttons, you use flow. There's so many things you can use. You just need to kind of like know the best option for the tasks you've been given. Like literally, Salesforce is becoming like a blank canvas. And it gives you all the tools needed to do the things you want to do. As a developer, you just need to know which one. Actually, some people might be very biased. I would say, you want to use Flow. Okay. You want to use Visual Studio, Visual First Page. Okay. You want to use Lightning Components. Okay. Whatever it is you want to use, you can use. But always go for the best tool. Do I want to be able to manage this code without, as you can see, we cannot use LWC in the user interface of Salesforce. We need to download SFDS. So you cannot work without, you cannot use LWC without SFDS. Okay, I cannot edit my LWC code. Let me show you the setup. And you type in Lightning Web Component. Okay, can you see? We only have Lightning Components. Everything we have here, I cannot see it. Can you see? I cannot edit it, sorry. Like you have it, but you cannot edit it. You just know that you have the Lightning Web Component here. Do you get what I mean? Unlike Apex, you can see Apex. You can see Apex classes that you created, and you can maybe edit that Apex class. Can you see? I can edit this Apex class right from the user interface. But for Lightning Web Components, I cannot edit it right from the user interface. Okay? So now, you've seen the basic stuff. I don't want to go into deeper Lightning Web Component stuff. If I had to go to deeper Lightning Web Component stuff, I will show you how to create tables. But I don't even need to show you. I can just show you the code. Then you can just copy the code and use it. For instance, let's go to creating tables. If you want to create a table, okay, so display data in table. You have this controller. I want to display data in the table. What do? I copy all this. Okay, I copy all this, go to my Apex Wire 2, and I place it here. Okay, remember, take up the templates. You need to be able to start reading code right now. Everything here is not something that I made up. It's something that Salesforce gave us as a structure where we can start from. Then based on your knowledge of programming, you start figuring out like, okay, the key field is ID, data is contact, columns is columns. Where is columns? You go back to the display table and look for where columns is initiated. This is this, and You look for columns. Where's columns? Then you look for what columns stand for. This is calls. This is columns, right? So you look for that columns and you copy everything and you paste it there. Okay, that's the way you start learning how to read code and how to use it. Because if you just feel like, okay, I know this stuff, Babatope is showing me and it looks easy, you might not know how to use it. You might not know how to be able to manipulate it when you're being asked to. However, with this, you should be able to know that this stuff is expecting contacts, it's expecting columns, it's expecting undo save, it's expecting draft values. So if you go to this, you should be able to see those stuff here, draft values, columns. Then you should be able to see what is being done. The same thing we've done before, just a little bit of methods that are inbuilt to the Lightning component. So let's kind of like copy this and just paste it into our wire method, okay? I copy this. Okay, and I need to copy everything, not just that. I need to copy the columns and everything. I'll explain what everything means to you shortly. Okay, so let's kind of like go through what the code means. Get contacts. We already know what get contact means. Basically, get contact is just getting the contacts from your controller. Refresh Apex. One thing about wire Apex is wire Apex would not refresh itself. That means if something changes, if something changed behind the scene, you will not be able to see the changes immediately. Refresh Apex would ensure that you can see changes that are being made on that component. Update record is